Hey, Husker fans, welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always is Danny Gillette, and we're back for another preview episode of the Michigan State game on Saturday. The Huskers are coming into this one 5-3, and they need one more victory to get to a bowl game, or at least get to bowl eligibility, and so they'll have that opportunity Saturday, 11 a.m. Central Time in East Lansing. So, Danny, let's get into it, man. What do you think about this Michigan State matchup? I mean, what are your first impressions of the Michigan State Spartans?
Coming into this game, I don't think, the last time we played Michigan State, the 2021 game, which made me lose all my hair basically because I had a full head of hair back then. They had an X factor in Kenneth Walker, and the defense that year stopped Kenneth Walker really well. This year, 2 years later, there's not really a Kenneth Walker X factor type player, in my opinion, that can take over a game for Michigan State. That's not to say that Nebraska should just, sit back and rest on their laurels and take them lightly, but I don't really see a major X factor player. I mean, they do have, their quarterback is thrown for over 1,000 yards. Noah Kim, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I mean, he has a 56.9 completion percentage, so he's not the most accurate passer. But I mean, I guess if we are looking for an X factor, it would have to be, in my opinion, again, the running game. Nathan Carter, 609 yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean, to me, if we stop the run, we should be okay. That's not to say completely ignore the pass, but I don't see this Michigan State offense being one that's very high powered.
Yeah, I just so some facts about Michigan State. They haven't won any games in the Big Ten yet. They're 2-6 overall. They're 0-4 in the Big Ten. They haven't beaten a Power Five opponent yet this season. And in fact, they've only had one game against a Power Five opponent that wasn't a double digit loss. So that's they obviously Mel Tucker got fired. Harlan Barnett has been the interim head coach. He hasn't won a game yet. One thing to note, when you were talking about Noah Kim, he's actually going to be out for this game, so he's not going to play. Caton Hauser's has been starting. He started the past couple of games, but has not played well. He's 0-3 as the starting quarterback. And then there's another quarterback that played last week, Levitt. He was 8-12. He ran for 52 yards. So they've got a couple of different options there at quarterback. Nate Carter definitely is a guy to watch at running back. Defensively, they're pretty good on third down defense. They're ranked 20th in the country in third down defense. Nebraska's 84th in third down conversions, so that's kind of something to watch. But for the most part, there's nothing truly special about this Michigan State team. I mean, they've got whichever quarterback they use, probably going to use both of them. They're both freshmen. They've attempted a total of 111 passes, I believe, throughout their careers, which have all been this season. So I would think that Tony White and this Nebraska defense are kind of licking their chops a little bit.
And on the defensive side of the football for Michigan State, I actually watched a little bit of Jordan Hall, the freshman linebacker, the other day, and he's going to be a key piece of their defense in the future. He has 41 tackles on the season, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. So they do have pieces on defense, and quite honestly, their defensive unit scares me a little bit more than their offensive unit. But I mean, as long as Nebraska can be efficient on offense, it's nothing that they can't overcome. Again, Hall is, the player I'm watching in this particular instance because he is really good. And one has to wonder if he'll leave Michigan State to go somewhere else, whether it be NIL or, things like that. Teams will come calling because Hall has a bright future.
Yeah, Michigan State defensively, I mean, they're solid against the run. They only allow 3.6 yards per carry, and I think that's what has me a little bit worried. They're one of the worst scoring defenses in the Big Ten Conference, but they give up a lot of their points through the passing game. And as we all know, Nebraska is the only Big Ten team right now that's averaging more passing yards per game than the Huskers is Iowa. So that kind of tells you, the state of the Nebraska passing game right now. I mean, it's been fine, and Heinrich Hartberg has done a solid job, but I don't know that Nebraska has the ability to go in and take advantage of what Michigan State doesn't do well, which is defend the pass. I think they will get some opportunities, but even if you look at the last 2 weeks, the 44-yard touchdown to Malachi Coleman, the 73-yarder to Jalen Lloyd, those were both off play action, the belly option pass play. So they've got to be able to get the running game going. That's going to be the key. And I don't think it's going to be easy against this Michigan State team. So I really think this is going to lead to a low scoring game on Saturday afternoon.
Well, I think we're going to have to see a lot of quarterback run and not necessarily running back run. And we've seen that a lot already. But I think, it's going to be more important to get Heinrich Haarberg involved in the running game. And also, one thing I noticed, and you can, offer your thoughts on this too, is Haarberg tends to throw a little bit better when he's on the run. I mean, it seems like that gives him more time to throw, obviously, and it seems like he feels more comfortable throwing on the run. And, for what it's worth, I thought the group, even with all the injuries, I thought the offensive line played, fairly well last week. So I'm excited to see what they can do this week and kind of build off that.
Yeah, I do think Harburg. I would say one of he does throw a little bit better on the run, but I think at times he doesn't stick in the pocket long enough. He tucks and runs too quickly. From my observations, which at times I don't, he does make plays at times, but there are also times where I think he has guys open or that could develop open where the
Yeah.
staff probably is hoping he would. But he's only in his first year playing. He's only making his six. He's only started 6 games, so but at any rate, I would still give Nebraska the quarterback advantage going into this matchup because neither of these Michigan State guys that have played have really, they're both 4-star guys. They were both 4-star recruits out of high school and they have talent, but they have not been very productive. So, we'll see kind of what happens there. I think the Nebraska defense, this matchup sets up pretty well for them, but, it's just going to be, scoring. And then at the same time, I guess let's shift to our keys because a big key for me in this game is obviously going to be taking care of the ball. You just there's no getting around it. I mean, Michigan State is a team that, and actually, if you look at turnovers, Michigan State and Nebraska are two of the worst teams in the country at giving the ball away. They're tied for 125th. So basically, there's only two teams in college football that have turned the ball over more than Nebraska and Michigan State, who both have 19 giveaways this season. So I mean, whichever team can kind of avoid that, is going to have a good chance of winning this game. But that's one way that I can see Nebraska losing if they, turn the ball over 3-4 times like they did last week. I mean, that every single time Harburg or one of these guys is running with the football, they're going to have 2-3 guys ripping at it, trying to rip it out because teams have had success at that. So hopefully, finally, Nebraska can hold on to the ball this week.
Yeah, I'm hoping for that too. I mean, it's been a real issue, and even on the kickoff return to open the game, there was a fumble. So I'm just hoping all around they do a better job of taking care of the football. And then I guess the key for me is to find ways to get the running game going, whether it be end arounds, quarterback runs. I mean, we're not a team that can focus on solely passing the football and win. We need some sort of running game element. So I guess a key for me, and this is probably mostly for Mark Satterfield here, is to find ways to get the running game going, even if it's a little bit unorthodox.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job last week. I mean, Josh Fleeks had a few nice plays, and then he had the personal foul, and we didn't see him much after that. But I would like to see some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Get Heinrich some easy throws early and get him some confidence. But yeah, this game is going to come down to for on the offensive side, the offensive line and Harburg and Emmett Johnson and Anthony Grant being able to run the football. Because if Nebraska doesn't win the running battle in this game, they're not going to win. Like if if Michigan State has more rushing yards than Nebraska on Saturday, they're going to win this game flat out. I 100% believe that.
And I guess another key for me is to simplify the playbook. I mean, you just kind of mentioned it right there. They started off with some quick throws to Josh Fleeks and things like that. Nothing crazy, nothing downfield. Just something to let the speedsters work in space and give Harburg easy completions and a chance to move the chains forward. I think simplifying the playbook in terms of giving Harburg easy reads and, allowing those speedy receivers that we've heard about, Malachi Coleman, Jalen Lloyd, Josh Fleeks, allow them to showcase their speed and, you know, allow Harburg to also make high percentage throws. And, that can make the difference between a third and long and a second and short, for instance.
And on the defensive side of the ball, I think for it's like we've already talked about, but it's stopping the run. And And I know that sound, I just mentioned that, but that really is the key to this game because if Nebraska's one dimensional, is forced to be one dimensional, that's not going to be a good thing. And on this, at the same side of things, if Nebraska can force Michigan State to be one dimensional with their two freshman quarterbacks against our pass rush and our secondary, that's going to be a recipe for two or three turnovers, maybe even a defensive touchdown. I know we got one on special teams last week, but man, it feels like the defense. It feels like Tommy Hill, one of these guys, is going to pick one off and run it back soon. I just have a feeling, and it feels like this really could be an opportunity for that, just because this Michigan State there's nobody in this passing game receiver wise that I truly fear, and I just think if they can slow down Carter, and he is a good player. I mean, he is a really good running back, but if they can slow him down and put all the pressure on these quarterbacks with all the different things that Tony White's throwing at people, I just think it's going to make a bad day for these Michigan State quarterbacks if that's how this game plays out.
Is there an update on Omar Brown? I know he was in concussion protocol early in the week, but have we heard anything else on the status of Brown?
I haven't heard anything yet. I'm guessing maybe I'm not sure if we'll hear from Coach Rule today on Thursday, but yeah, I mean, I'm glad it's only a concussion protocol thing. I know there's also been talk of Marcus Buford coming back. I mean, I would be surprised if he got thrown into the starting lineup right away, but he could be available Saturday. I'm not sure his status, but hopefully Omar Brown, will be back because he has been, really spectacular this season. One of the few seniors on this Nebraska team.
And on the defensive front, I think, Nebraska will need another, big game from Tommy Hill. I mean, Hill, I thought, played really well last week. I believe he had one interception, or did he have two? I know he had
He
one.
had two. He's
He
had
had
three
two.
interceptions over the last two games.
He's done a much better job than last year in terms of covering. And, not only covering, but his instincts have been a lot better this year, and he looks a lot more comfortable in the secondary. So I would love to see him have another big game because, last year, we knew he was a highly rated recruit. We didn't really see it. I think this year it's finally all coming together for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing, this coaching staff with a lot of guys, they're getting stuff out of them that, the previous staff didn't. Tommy Hill
Gifford.
is a great example. Yeah, Gifford is another one. I think Bryce Benhart is another example of a guy that has really thrived under. And I know it's the same offensive line coach, but it's a different staff, and he's really played well. So, there's a lot of guys I feel like that are standing, and even, I think Nick Heinrich has played better this season. I know he hasn't played, he's been hurt and stuff, but I think he's been a better player. And I mean, Ty Robinson and Nash Hutchmaker,
Yeah.
probably the two best examples, but there's a
Omar
bunch of
Brown.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, Omar Brown. I mean, it's been a lot of guys. I really am impressed with how this coaching staff has developed the players on this team, and I think we all recognize that there was talent there on this roster, and now they're starting to get that talent out of these guys, and so we'll see if that continues on Saturday. But if you look at this Michigan State team, I mean, it's they've been one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, flat out. Now that doesn't mean that Nebraska can't lose this game. I mean, Nebraska's a 3-point favorite. And this Michigan State, they do have a solid defense, especially in the front seven. So it's going to be a physical game, and I just feel like winning that running battle is going to be the decisive factor for Nebraska. And they've done it now. 7 out of 8 games they've won the rushing battle by a pretty wide margin. I mean, I want to say almost every game they've won it by 60, 70. Most of the times it's over 100 yards outside of the Michigan game. So if they can just do that again, I just really don't see Michigan State winning this game.
Quite honestly, I know that, we were, we're down a couple guys on the offensive line, but I thought the group that they put together last week did really well. And I'd love to see more effort like that again. And, shout out to them because Purdue's defensive line, especially the ends, they were very good players. And I know we were a little bit leaky on the edge, but by and large, I thought that for all the injuries and, the relative, experience of that group we put out on Saturday, I thought they did a good job.
So before we kind of get into our final predictions, let's talk a few X factors. We've had some a couple weeks ago. We talked about Malachi Coleman. He caught a touchdown. We mentioned some. You might have mentioned Jalen Lloyd last week, and he had a big touchdown last week. So what going into this matchup, I guess first from the Nebraska side of the thing, what is an X factor, or who might be an X factor for Nebraska on Saturday?
I'm gonna say Heinrich Harburg. I mean, that's the easy cop out answer. But when he is on top of his game and he takes care of the football and he plays well, the offense follows. And when he doesn't, the offense struggles a bit. So I guess if you don't want a Harburg answer, I'm gonna say probably, probably. Hmm. That's a outside of Harburg. I'd say probably Jalen Lloyd again because, I think when you look at the speed that Lloyd presents, and we saw it on that touchdown. I mean, he's difficult to match up against because of that speed. And I think you know this offense, they don't have a lot of weapons right now, but Lloyd and Coleman are going to be key pieces for the future, and they're starting to show it. Um, as the season progresses here.
Yeah, I think the freshman receive. I think all three freshman receivers are great X factors for this week. And if one of them can come up with a big play, then I think that basically will clinch this win for Nebraska. Because really, I don't see this being a high scoring game. I don't see Michigan State scoring a lot of points unless there's defensive touchdowns or something like that. And yeah, it's last week, Jaden Doss, had a nice reception. Malachi drew a pass interference penalty, which would have been on a touchdown. He was wide open, and then Jalen Lloyd too. And they've done a great job of getting all three of these guys the football. And I feel like at some point, one of these three guys is going to make an explosive play. Probably a couple. We'll probably see a couple explosive plays from that group. But my X factor, just to shift gears a little bit in this game, I think it's going to be for me. It's going to be Emmett Johnson. Harburg has to run the football well. I think they've started to do a better job, and he started to of seeing defenses are focusing on him on more of those read option plays. Emmett has over 70 yards in back-to-back games, and I think he's going to have a similar effort, on Saturday. I'm not saying he has to get 100 yards or anything, but they need to rush for about 150 or so, and Heinrich can't do that by himself. So I really think, especially with Michigan State's front focusing on that, I think Emmett Johnson is going to have to deliver, and he's my X factor for Saturday. And if he can get in that 70-yard range again in terms of rushing yardage, then I feel pretty confident that Nebraska, like I said, will win that running battle. And if they win that, they're going to win the game. That's my opinion.
And it also, sets up the program well for the future. I mean, we've talked about the decommitment of Kawan Lacey and, things like that. But a guy like Emmett Johnson, who is having a good season right now and, can really kind of progress to next season and things like that. Emmett Johnson back, Ramir Johnson back. We have Quentin Ives next year. Not to go too far into it, but this growth and solid play from Johnson leaves me hopeful for the running back room in the future at a position that we, quite frankly, are still a little bit worried about.
And then I guess in terms of the Michigan State, my X factor, I'm going to go with Sam Levitt, who might actually be starting at quarterback on Sat. We really don't know. Harlan Barnett has said it's kind of a competition at this point, which is pretty weird because you're so far into the season. But
Yeah.
Levitt is a true freshman. He has a touchdown, 2 picks this season, but he ran for 52 yards last week as well on 6 carries. So, maybe he can give them a spark running the football, throwing it, or whatever. But he's going to be my X factor, Sam Levitt, because I don't know if they're going to go with Caton Hauser, and I just really haven't seen anything from him that makes me think he's going to play 4 quarters and have success against Nebraska.
Nathan Carter carries for 44 yards against Minnesota last week, 4 yards a carry. It's pretty solid average on the ground. If Nebraska can stop him, I think that will, give them a great chance to win. But, he's an explosive player. He had a 100-yard game against Richmond and Central Michigan at the beginning of the year, and he also had one against Iowa at the end of September. So Carter can be an explosive player, and I think the defensive line will be tasked a lot with stopping him, and if they can do that and continue their solid play, then I think we have a great chance to win this game.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's see. We'll get down to prediction time, man. Last week we were both correct on our picks. I think you had Nebraska 31-17, so you were actually
I
pretty
was
close.
so close, yeah.
I think I had them winning 20-17, so I wasn't that close. But Purdue actually ended up being a 1-point favorite. So I did get that one right against the spread. So for the season, I'm 8-0, straight up 4-4 against the spread. So I'm not sure what your record is, Danny. You probably aren't keeping track, but
No, because
at
I'm
any
terrible
rate,
at predictions.
at any rate, I mean, you were pretty on last week, so maybe you're not. Maybe you need to give yourself a little more credit. But I'm going to put the ball in your court here first. Prediction time. What's your prediction? Michigan State, Nebraska. What do you got?
Nebraska wins 20-10.
20-10. Nice, like it. I'm going to say this is going to be a bit of a slugfest, and I'm going to go 16-10. Nebraska wins it over Michigan State.
They
Tristan
both have
Obano.
10. That's interesting.
Yeah, I just don't see them scoring a lot.
No.
I really don't. I mean, it's maybe they get, a lucky play here or a turnover or whatever, but I just don't see them. This defense has been really damn good, and I don't see Carter running the ball well. So yeah, unless Nebraska has a 3 or 4 turnover game, I really see him getting win number 6 on Saturday.
And I think Alvano is absolute laser from, what was it, 55 yards out?
55, yeah.
Boosted his confidence, and, credit to Roll for sticking with the freshman kicker and developing even at that position. And just a quick side note, not to get too far into it, but if you didn't catch Matt Rule's speech about why players have the breast cancer awareness ribbon on their helmet, please check it out. I mean, it absolutely gave me chills. And oof, I mean, say what you want about Matt Rule as a coach, but he is a damn good motivator. I'd go play for him any day of the week.
Yeah, that was another great speech. Certainly gave me chills. So
Yeah,
definitely check it out. The inside Nebraska stuff they got going on
that's
has
great
been,
stuff. But yeah,
yeah, it's been really cool. It's been great to get, that motivation. Even Ethan Piper's mom was even there at the
yep.
end. So yeah, great stuff. Check it out. And we got our guy. We got our head coach. So I'm proud that he's leading the program, and I feel pretty confident he's going to lead us to a bowl eligibility, I should say, on Saturday. So make sure for our purposes, you guys hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the like button, get into the comment section. That all really helps us out. And then we'll be back on Saturday morning. We'll have our regular pregame chat. So come hang out with us Saturday morning and talk some Nebraska football. And until then, check out HuskerBigRed.com. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.